It took 3 days for Jesus to crawl out of his hole and revive himself.
It's true.
It took 1 year for Weens to tear itself out of its hole that, you know, the hole of that we, you know, when you like bend over and you try to self-fulfill the prophecy, as they say.
Yes.
But you can open up a wormhole.
Is that...
Go in.
Okay. And
you sucked in. And then we got out.
It's true.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 191 of Screen Weens.
Welcome. We're out of the hole.
Yeah, we're out of the hole.
We're out of the...
Thomas got out of prison.
Microverse, or what is Ant-Man in? The quantum verse?
The quantum zone, the verse. Quantum
realm?
Quantum mania. Quantum realm, yeah, that's...
Yeah. Yeah, that's what the hole is like. But we're out. We're like Scott Lang. We're back out.
Yeah. Ants.
Eating tacos or something. Is that what he does in Endgame? I don't...
Yeah.
It's been I only saw it the once in the theaters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's eating like a taco or something, and a helicopter comes down and flies out, and then Hulk comes up and like hands him another one.
Yeah. What a nice guy.
Yeah.
Not angry at all.
Yeah. The incredibly mild-mannered Hulk.
Yeah. I guess that was the point of that version of the Hulk, though, was the lack of anger. But yes. Hello, welcome. We are back.
And we're covering F.W. Murnau today.
Yeah.
Hooray!
Woo!
We're going to try this thing again. Maybe a little less frequently.
Yes.
Maybe a little more focused, but we're going to do it again. We have not watched a movie in a year.
I came real fucking close until...
I watched a lot.
What was it, like June or something when I finally was like, yes, a movie!
Because I would just check your letterbox every once in a while. Like, yep, Thomas wasn't watching anything lately. And then I'm like, whoa, Thomas is watching stuff.
Yeah, I don't remember what set me off, but I know it was horror genre. I got back in through there, and have slowly...
It's Thomas's cultural touchstone to everything in his life.
Yeah, I mean... It's horror is like the primordial ooze that everything comes out of. You know?
For everything in life, or for everything for you?
Everything in life, you know. Yeah. Humans are like
they're
cold
scared.
And they're scared of the dark. They invent fire. They don't discover it. They invent it.
True.
Because they were fearful. The horror genre and the human experience leads to innovation. Same in media. So.
True.
Yes.
Being scared is what made Screen Weens come back.
Indeed. Terrified.
Yeah, Terrifier.
Terrifier 3.
In theaters now. Don't watch it.
Yeah, they've seen it. I have not.
Thomas will watch it one day.
One day.
And you'll regret it.
Yes. Probably. Maybe. It's a half an hour shorter than the last one, so maybe I won't.
Yeah, that's huge.
That is huge.
They should have doubled down. They should have made it 4 hours.
I think 3 hours for the third entry sounds appropriate. Why not? Sure.
Just add an hour to each one.
Yeah.
Hour and a half, 2.5 hours, 3.5 hours, 4.5 hours.
You know that there would be a very vocal minority of horror fans that would be like, yes, this is what I've been needing. The 7-hour cut of Terrifier.
Oh.
But, yeah. So we're back. We're talking about Murnau.
We were going to watch 5 of his movies, and then Thomas came over, and he's like, I'm hungry. You want to watch a 6th of his movie?
Yeah.
And so we watched City Girl just now, and we ate pizza and Domino's mac and cheese.
Yes. It was okay.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad.
Sponsored by Domino's. Nope. Our sponsorship. It was fine.
Yeah. It was okay. But Domino's is not okay. They're bad. Once one falls over, they all fall over. That's the corporate motto.
True.
But anyway.
You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us.
Yes.
You knock one of us down, you knock all of us down.
True. That's what it's like living in America. 2024.
True.
So, I'm not diving back into it. Do we talk about what we've been?
No, I think we can skip that this time.
It's been a year. Let's pull out the list.
Okay, I watched 400 movies since we've covered this last. Maybe we can do something else later, but we don't have the time to talk about everything London's watched.
True. We might have the time to talk about everything I've watched.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I've watched
Puppet Master.
I watched Return of the Living Dead at least 3 times this year.
Okay. Were you showing it to people, or you just...
In one of the cases, I watched it once on my own accord and went, fuck, I love this movie. And then I had a friend over. I'm like, you gotta watch this. Come over and watch this. And so
they hated it.
No, they liked it. And then I found out that they altered the audio on like the DVD version of it, because for the longest time it was in like distribution hell. Like it didn't have a DVD release for the longest time, and I guess like one crazy fan back in like the early 2000s was like harassing people through emails, and eventually got MGM to do a DVD release of it. But they like changed the audio on it and cut out like a bunch of the punk songs that were in it.
Oh. And
they also altered like Tarman's voice. It used to be like higher and more alien sounding, but they lowered it. Huh. So little changes like that. And I was like, I just watched this movie twice, but I just found out that there's this audio track from the VHS version I used to watch a lot as a kid, but haven't watched in like 20 years. I gotta watch it again, of course. So, and I did. I think I've also watched like Reanimator like twice this year. I almost watched it a third time the other day because I was like
feeling some Jeffrey Combs.
I kind of want to watch Reanimator, but I get that hankering like once a year at least. So
fair.
Yeah. Anyway, any movies you watched like 3 times this year?
Probably. Saw the new animated Transformers movie twice in theaters.
I heard it's good.
I was really surprised how much I enjoyed that. I rewatched Terrifier 1 and 2, which is not, I didn't watch that this year, but for the first time. But it's been 5 years since I watched that first one, but I was like, man, it did not feel like that.
Yeah.
I watched, have you seen Clifford?
The Martin Short movie?
Yeah.
I've seen like bits and pieces on cable.
I watched that twice because I think that's like the funniest movie ever made.
Yeah.
It's fair. Demonic.
Yeah, that's the one where he's like a little boy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like 44 years old.
Yeah.
What else have I watched multiple times this year? Twilight of the Warriors Walled In is a action movie that's set in Kowloon City, which was it was in Hong Kong, and it was this like giant walled in, pretty much its own city. It was densely packed, and it was like this. If you should look up pictures of it because it looks insane. But it's an action movie set in there, and it's awesome. It's one of my favorite movies from this year. I think I watched The Beekeeper twice. The new Statham movie.
Oh.
It's by David Ayer, who I don't like as a director. He did like Fury, which we watched for the podcast. He did he did Suicide Squad, not the Suicide Squad.
I don't know the difference between the two. I know that.
Well, James Gunn did the second one, which is the one with
which one's the one with the.
The is the one James Gunn did.
Oh, okay.
That's the newer one.
Okay.
Suicide Squad's the one with Will Smith.
Yeah, I didn't like that one.
Yeah, me neither.
I didn't watch the new one, so I can't.
So I wasn't expecting The Beekeeper to be good, but it's very funny and very fun. But I've been kind of into more like schlocky action movies lately.
That's fair.
As long as there's like a threading the needle type situation that they got to achieve. I've been really into Van Damme lately.
Oh yeah, I've actually not watched.
He's much. Great. I really like him. I really like his movies. But yeah, just a lot of weird exploration on like, because there's so much movies to watch. There's so many different types of movies.
It's true. It's always weird because like sometimes, do you ever get that like when you watch a movie? I know I hate this part of me sometimes because I feel like it feeds into like the modern state of film, but sometimes you watch a movie and you're like, that movie was really good. I kind of want to watch something that feels like that but isn't that again. Mm-hmm. But you can never like quite find it.
Yeah.
Nothing ever quite feels the same unless you're watching like a shit movie, and then in which case a lot of times they all feel the same. But yeah.
No, yeah, I get it. Like, there's a lot of movies that I'm like, man, especially like Van Damme movies, not all of them feel the same. Like, this feels so weird. Or a lot of Murnau movies, like jumping ahead, they feel so different from so many of its contemporaries from the stuff I've watched, at least.
Yeah, for sure.
And it makes me want to deep dive into silent movies. But silent movies take, like, a lot of attention,
extra focus, yeah. It's like reading a subtitle movie, but kind of extra in certain scenarios. Like, especially if you're watching Murnau. I feel like I could watch like a Charlie Chaplin movie and look away from the screen for large periods of time and mostly be fine.
Yeah.
Because if Murnau, it's like I look away for a second, I feel like I miss like a deep character moment.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, crap. But, yeah. But anyway, speaking of Murnau, you want to get into the life of this man?
Yeah. In just a second. And we're back talking about Murnau. Thomas, take it away.
All right. Born in 1888, December.
Me too.
Yeah, I know, right? In Bielefeld, Germany, I think is how you pronounce it.
Yep, love that place.
Yeah, great place. Never been there. I think I read
1888?
1888. 12/28/1888.
Jeez.
I know.
I just know when he died, so I'm just doing the math.
He was 42. Yeah.
He was 34 when he made Nosferatu?
Yeah. His like what?
Seventh movie, something like that?
Yeah. The first notable one in history.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of movies that are lost. There might be movies that we don't know about, too.
Probably, yeah.
Because it seems like a lot of those movies, like his first couple movies, he made like 4 in the same year.
Maybe. I could see it being, like, nowadays, if there's a movie that's lost, I could see it being pretty likely, but you probably needed, like... I'm sure there probably are examples, but I feel like it might be less common because you did need a lot of people to make a movie back then, so there's got to be, like, some documentation.
Yeah, you're right.
But, born in Germany, his father owned a cloth factory, and his mother was that guy's second wife. Those are the facts I found about them. He had 2 brothers and 2 stepsisters. And when he was 7, the family moved to a different city that I don't have the name of in my notes. Whoops. But very well-read child. Read a lot of philosophy and plays by the time he was like 12. They had a little villa, and apparently he directed plays there when he was a kid. And he went on to study philology and art history and literature, and then he was found by Max
Reinhardt, you said?
Reinhardt, yep. Who basically was like, hey, come to my acting school. And then he befriended the guy that I didn't know about till today, but apparently is a pretty important I don't know, Franz Marc is how you would pronounce that. But he was a German painter, a key figure in the German Expressionist art movement, and a founding member of a group that was important to the movement called the Blue Riders.
The Blue Riders.
Yeah. Apparently they were like one of 2 of the big German Expressionist art groups that were around. Apparently they were like the looser ones that weren't so much like an official, like, yeah, we're like an official club. It was more of just like, yeah, these people kind of hunt at each other, give them a title or something. But, yeah, and then he went and served the German forces in World War One. First as an infantry company commander, and then a comms officer. Then he was part of the Flying Corps as a gunner and observer. And the guy survived like 8 plane crashes with like little to no damage.
He's like, I'm fine.
Yeah. He just survived 8 fucking plane crashes, but didn't survive 1 car crash. I guess his punch card ran out.
Well, he survived the car crash.
Oh.
He just died from the injuries from the car.
Yes, of course. Yeah, and then one time after landing in Switzerland, he was captured and kept as a POW for like the rest of the war. I don't know. It must have been like a more somewhat lax POW camp, because it had a theater troupe that he was a part of in there, and apparently he also wrote a movie script while he was there. So the war ended, he went back to Germany, and started a film studio with Conrad Veidt, I think is how you pronounce. Famous actor of the time, most known for like a bunch of stuff, but like Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, he's the
cabinet?
He's the cabinet. He's the guy in the cabinet. He's the hypnotized guy.
Oh.
Like the aside from Caligari, like the other star of that movie. And he's also like the Laughing Man, the guy who inspired the Joker. So like pretty.
We watched that movie together.
We did?
I think so.
Probably. It might be one of those movies that just got deleted from
it was during our weekly thing. You might have not watched that one.
Perhaps. I don't have any I've seen clips from it that I recall, but to be fair, sometimes movies get like rattled in my memory.
Yeah, and you're like, all I remember is Reanimator.
Like I'll talk about what I remembered about Sunrise before I watched it. It's a vastly different movie that lived in my memory. And I was like, wait, what? When I was actually watching it. It's like, oh shit. I like this a lot better than what I thought.
What I remembered.
Yeah. But yeah, they formed a studio, made his first movie in 1919, which is called The Boy in Blue, which is
Blue.
Lost. Most of his movies are lost. I have the stats here. Only 12 of the 22 movies he made are complete today, and 8 of them are entirely lost. So there's some that are like bits and pieces. I think The Boy in Blue has like
a minute or two, right? Something like that. Or there was one of his movies I was reading. It's got 1 minute left.
Like, there's like 11 frames that survived, and like a clip from a scene. It's like, okay. I mean, it's better than nothing, but still, it's like,
yeah,
obviously not a super big look into what. But yeah, his first notable work was Nosferatu in 1922. It was the only movie that studio made, because I'm sure most people know this. When that movie was made, Dracula was not public domain like it is today. They had to ask the Stoker estate for the rights, which they said no. And then them being like, well, we live in Germany. They don't know what's up over here. We'll just make it anyway and change the names. They'll never know. They knew.
So they just used a puppet. It was pretty much a puppet like studio, and then they just immediately closed it right afterwards.
Pretty much, because they got sued by the Stoker estate, and then they filed bankruptcy. That way they didn't have to pay. But the Stoker estate was like, you have to destroy every existing copy of the movie. But they had already shipped out like international copies of the movies, too many of them. So. Yeah, so that led to Nosferatu becoming like an early example of a cult film, because it was like, this shouldn't exist, yet a bunch of people have it, and it gets screened around in places and stuff. Then he went and directed The Last Laugh, which the cinematographer on that ended up developing like a camera movement that became like basically like it was super revolutionary. It was something with the moving camera.
Okay.
Let me look that up specifically just so I can talk about it a bit. I didn't write down the specifics of it in my notes, but it's the technique that he uses. I think he used it in like 1 or 2 shots in Nosferatu with like the ship moving, but it basically made the camera more mobile and able to move around. I know that's basically the gist of it.
He put it on a skateboard. That classic trick.
Yeah. No, Sam Raimi invented that when he made the Evil Dead.
True.
Not really. That was a plank of wood.
Yeah.
But somebody's done the skateboard, surely. I don't know who's credited with that, but...
Who was the first to put a camera on a skateboard? Tony Hawk.
Perhaps. Probably not. Probably one of those street boarders in the 90s.
Yeah.
Or 80s or whatever. Let me look up. Murnau, camera technique.
I was telling my buddy, because I had my buddy watch Faust with me last night. That was his first silent film. And I was talking about how it's so interesting watching movies from this era, because it's like, especially the more well-known movies, because you're like, yeah, this might be the first time this technique's ever used.
Yeah, sometimes.
Or this is the place that this was popularized, and it's just really interesting, because... You know, that doesn't really happen anymore. Like, it does on, like, smaller scales, but there's nothing that you're going to see, and then you're going to be like, yep, this is going to be used for the next 80 years.
Yeah, in terms of exploring the medium, in terms visually like that, pretty much everything that's within our imaginations and capability been done at this point. Best you can do is polish it and maybe mix techniques to make it look more efficient. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. But I'm sure there's probably
like there's still stuff going on. Like there's I remember when Nope came out, they shot everything with like a specific IMAX camera, and they used they did day for night shots in that, and the night shot. Like there are things that are still being done today, but I don't think there's anything that's necessarily revolutionizing the film industry in the same way that will have the same staying power, just because things move so fast in all facets of our lives now. So like even if something's gonna like revolutionize it, it'll only be for like 5 years before something else does it again.
Yeah, pretty much. We're probably on the cusp of like AI being a tool in that, but
Yeah.
I'm not mad at AI if it's like not. I don't like it when it like creates stuff from like pulling.
Yeah, like generative AI is cringe and boring, but like I was watching I was reading something about like the making of Dune 2 when they use like a specific AI they like trained to help change the eye color on everyone to like make it the blue and stuff. Like, yeah, that's fine. Because that's still like a human touch that you're like programming and using. That's just using a computer.
Right. Yeah. As long as it's not just stealing content and mashing it up. Let me see. Alright. I was just trying to look up the name, but I have to. Google's stupid now, so.
True. Because of its AI.
Yes. Yes! Well, partially that and the amount of just shit articles that overpopulate the search engines now. But, yeah, the flying camera is the gist of it. Sam Raimi, eat your heart out. Yeah, all your cool techniques that you're known for, that you took 110%. Murnau was doing that shit at like 10%. In the 20s, so...
Murnau would have loved The Evil Dead.
Perhaps.
He'd be like, look at that!
Yeah, it might be funnier than he might have been like, not sad enough, but...
True.
I think for the most part, he would have been like, yeah, that Ash guy, he killed his girlfriend. I like that.
I'm gonna put that in my next movie.
Yes. But, Yeah. But yeah, it made The Last Laugh. Then Faust.
Faust was 26, right?
Yes, and while he was making Faust, William Fox, I think is the guy's name, the guy who owned Fox Studios back in the silent era.
I was like, come on over.
Yes, come, make
like
Hollywood pictures.
I like your stuff, kid.
It'll be a good political move for you, because, well, you don't want to stick around that place.
There's some rumblings going on over in Germany. Not really sure, but there's this one guy, funny mustache.
10 to 15 years might change the way people look at you in history. Get the fuck over here. Not that you lived through that period of history anyway. Sadly. I don't know. It seemed common for his group, because that German expressionist artist he hung out with, I mentioned earlier, also died when he was like,
in a car crash?
I don't know if he died in a car crash, but he died when he was like 30 or 40 or something. It's like, I know a lot of people did die in car crashes back then, but then, gee, I wonder why. They were.
What do you mean you want us to put on a seatbelt? What the fuck is this?
That didn't come around till like the 80s or 70s. Like,
what the fuck?
No.
What do you mean we can't drink while we drive?
Right. What?
It's an American. Are you a communist?
Yeah. Fucking. But yeah. Then moved over to Hollywood. Made Sunrise. Super big hit. And then made City Girl. I don't know what the specifics were. I didn't get that far in my notes. But something happened during City Girl where he basically broke up with Fox and Hollywood and was like, well, fuck you guys. I'm going to go down to the South Islands and make Tabu. And he did. And then a week before that premiered,
he fucking died.
Yeah, he died he got into a car crash and then later died.
Yeah.
So, that's sad.
Yeah.
I really wish we lived in a world where he lived like another, like, potentially 30 to 40 years and gave us more heavy hitters, because something tells me we were just at the tip of the iceberg when he
could have made a movie with Harold.
He could have. Yeah, he kind of did. There's that guy who really looked like Harold Lloyd in the background of that.
Well, because think about this, Girl. Like, Chaplin made movies later on, like Limelight, which I haven't seen, but it's about, like, you know, an aging comedian, you know. They're in Buster Keaton's in, like, Sunset Boulevard as a cameo. They all have these movies that are kind of about, like, these aging artists that are going. Lloyd didn't get one of those. He should have done that with Murnau, because they were almost the same age. Murnau was only 5 years older than him.
Oh, really?
Lloyd was born in 1893.
Oh. So. Shit.
That could have been good.
Yeah. Oh, man. Think you were born a few years earlier. He would have been born 100 years before us.
True.
Which...
And that's another thing, is like, Lloyd lived until the 70s.
Yeah.
But so it's like, some of these people, you know, your mom was like, my mom was alive when Harold Lloyd was alive, kind of thing. Like,
yeah.
So, like, Murnau, if he didn't get into that car accident...
Chaplin lived till, like, what, the 90s?
Something, like, crazy like that.
Yeah. I don't know when Buster passed.
He was in a movie with... that was directed by... God, what's the fucking... What... It's just called Samuel Beckett, and that was in the 70s, I think. So.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe it was in the 60s. It's just called Film. It's not directed by him, but it's Samuel Beckett wrote it. That was in 65. Buster died in 66. He died the year after. What the fuck?
Oh, wow.
And then Chaplin lived until 77.
Oh, okay. I don't know why. I thought he lived till the 90s.
He was like 90.
Maybe that was it. I'm just getting things crossed in my brain. At least he got that Oscar thing.
Yeah.
Like a standing ovation or whatever.
Yeah, for being a funny guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's pretty much the broad strokes of the life of Murnau.
Yeah. He died in 40... What, he was 43, you said? Something like that.
44, I think.
Which is nuts.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's nuts to
42.
think that... 42.
He died. The meaning of life.
Yeah. Maybe it's a reference to F.W. Murnau.
Yeah, maybe, perhaps.
It's just so
definitely not
strange to think about. Like, spoiler, I liked all these movies a lot.
I don't know if I'd say I liked them all like a lot, but I certainly liked most of them a lot.
And it's just crazy to think about all these movies that are so well crafted.
Yeah.
Being in like an 8-year period or a 7-year period.
I know.
Or whatever.
All his entire body of work was just 11 years because he started in 1919 and died in 31.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, that's crazy to think about. And it's like, what would have another like 30 years have been?
Yeah.
I'm sure it probably would have been similar to many of his peers. It would have maybe gone until the 50s and then
I'm going to bed.
Not even that, but I'm sure a lot of it was just studios not giving them chances. Hey, your breed of film has died out. You're old news. Yeah. You can't, because I mean that happens. We're not covering Vincent Price, but I know like Vincent Price used to be a serious actor, and then just because he was aging, they were like, all right, we're casting you in less, and then he made the pivot over to horror, and then we probably wouldn't even be talking about him today if he didn't. So, but it's weird how, I don't know. It's sad that Murnau didn't get a chance to do that like late game change that could have completely changed how we perceive him.
Yeah.
For better or worse. So, but I'd like to think for the better.
Me too.
But yeah, I guess let's dive into it. Talking about, I guess, the natural starting point. Be the film of his that probably most people know, which is Nosferatu.
Which is one of those movies that I was surprised I'd never seen. Like, I've seen Vampire, the drier film. And I'm like, that's a much stranger, silent era vampire movie to have seen over Nosferatu.
Oh, for sure. Although we did it for the podcast. Yeah. So I was like, all right.
But still, it's just, and it's like, I'd never gone out of my way. Even after I'd seen Tabu and Sunrise, I'd be like, yep, I haven't seen Nosferatu still.
Yeah.
I think it was one of those that, and like thinking about like something like Frankenstein the book, like it's one of those things like they just get held in such an interesting like mythic regard that's like, surely they can't hold up to that expectation. So in my mind, I'm just like, I'll watch it when I watch it.
I feel that. I have that mindset with a lot of things. And sometimes I feel in my way, rightfully so. Like I feel that way about, well, I've seen it, but I feel like that, it's probably not as good as the book or whatever with like Dracula. The Bela Lugosi version, which is factually a terrible adaptation of the book.
Yeah. I mean, so is like Frankenstein, but that movie's a whole other beast.
That movie is great, though. Yeah. Dracula has a great performance in it, but it's got great stuff in it for sure, like the atmosphere and stuff, really good. But the movie, the back half of it is literally just Bela Lugosi walking into a room repeatedly going like, I like this girl.
Yeah, I was actually surprised by Nosferatu at how accurate a lot of it is.
Yeah. No, it's...
I was like, wow, that's just the like...
Yeah, and I like all the changes it makes, because it's like a darker, grittier version of the book, where they kind of condense the heroes with the more tragic characters of the story, like Mina and Lucy are combined into Ellen.
Yeah.
I like Ellen more than I might like obviously you get more development and attachment to Mina in the book, but like in terms of like where her character goes, I like that a lot more. Maybe the stuff about being like, oh, you're like the chosen one virgin, whatever, but I get it's like old folktale religious stuff feeding into that, but I like it in concept, but
definitely.
this is your first time seeing it. What general?
Oh, I loved this one.
Okay.
I think that the ending. We're gonna get into spoilers for I guess Dracula and this, but the ending where she like sacrifices herself to distract. It's literally like the vampire will be distracted by the beauty of a sexy virgin.
Yeah,
and then he just fucking dies. I think it comes a little abruptly.
It's because they had to shoot it really fast because Murnau was actually plotting to kill Max Schreck in that scene and needed to open up the windows.
True.
He needed to drug the actress playing Ellen and actually feed her to him. But anyway,
but I think it's a little too snappy. I think for my first watch, I don't know how I would feel about it if I rewatched it. But in general, outside of that, I think the pacing's like perfect in that movie.
It's very good.
And I love Max Schreck in it. But more than anything, I liked the guy who plays
Thomas.
Yeah, I don't remember the name.
Hutter,
yeah.
Hutter. Yes.
I think his name's like Wangenheim or something like that, the actor's name. I really liked his performance. He has this, like, kind of carefree aloofness to him. He's like,
he definitely does.
Which I think Murnau recycles in a lot of his movies where, like, the characters are really like, yeah, everything's good, and then everything's not good. But there's just something about him. I really enjoyed his performance.
Yeah.
Especially when he's with Max Schreck.
Yeah, I was going to say. It's a good contrast to the tone of that movie, because atmospherically, it's one of the best horror movies of all time. Like, not even competition. Like, it's just dripping in atmosphere, and Max Schreck looks like a fucking
vampire.
Actual, real vampire.
And it's like, I had seen...
And, like, there's just... Yeah, those creepy shots where it's just like... You can tell, like, the guy playing Hutter is, like, or Hoder or whatever it is like, super terrified. He's like, I gotta, like, try and get out of here. And he just opens the door and just, like, across the distance, you pant, or you hard zoom, because the panning wasn't a big thing at this time, into, like, just Nosferatu standing there just staring directly into the camera. And it's like, shut door. It's like, and there's a similar shot with a window later on. Like, all of that stuff is, like, so good.
Murnau, obviously, he can't adapt the stuff easily, like where it's like Dracula's crawling down the wall and stuff. But he uses his medium so well, and just like these long shots of just Max Schreck's face, or just like slowly zooming in. Or like there's the later shot where it's just like the shadow of him and he's reaching his hands up. That shot's genius.
Yeah, it really is. And I love in the trailer for the new one, they do that shot, and it looks really good in the new one as well. But obviously, I love all the shadow stuff in this.
And he does it with like all of his movies, but it's this and like Faust specifically that he plays with them, because they're more the horror centric ones.
Yeah, it's like, I'd say this and like Sweet Home have just like some of the coolest fucking like just shadow in horror movie.
Yeah.
I especially love, like, that final shot at the end when he, kills Ellen, and it's just, like, the shadow of his hand, like, hovering over her heart, and then just, like, clasping down.
Yeah.
And it's, like, it's so cool and so creative. And it's, like, where's shit like, it'd be a big CGI fucking hand nowadays. And it's like, no! In-camera effects are so cool. And,
I agree.
Yeah, I don't know. But there's, I don't know. I think it's a really interesting interpretation. I like that it's darker and grittier. Like, I like additions like when Count Orlok or Dracula or whatever you want to call him comes to England, he brings with him like the plague, which I think is a super cool addition that kind of just adds to the dark atmosphere, which...
Because he just has a bunch of rats with him.
Yeah. Brings a bunch of rats. And it's so creepy. I always think that, like, the concept of, like, people, like, throwing your dead overboard when you're, like, at sea is super fucking creepy. Yeah. You know, it's, like, instead of the traditional version of Dracula, like, the Demeter, where he, like, basically just solo hunts them and stealths them one by one like a video game mission nowadays. I like that it's like just the plague takes them all out.
And they're like having visions of him and they're seeing him, but they're like, well, they have the plague, so it can't possibly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's super creepy. Yeah, this movie's like just creepy in the best way.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like, I mean, I'm sure it's probably scary to some people.
Yeah. I was thinking about, like, imagine watching this when it came out. Like, would you... Because there weren't a lot of horror movies around this time anyway. And a lot of people didn't, weren't going to the movies every single day.
Yeah.
So you watch this and you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like, honestly, yeah, there's not... Even since it's come out, like, there's maybe like a handful of horror movies that even come close to being anywhere near as creepy as this one is. Yeah. So coming right out of the gate for the horror genre with like shit like this and Caligari and I mean Faust is another good example. Just these visually fucking
there's some genuinely creepy, scary shots in Faust that really fucking freaked me out.
Yeah. We'll talk more about that once we get there. But I don't know. I there's also like an interesting. I tried looking for like film essays online about certain subject matter regarding like Murnau and like Nosferatu in general and like its ties to like World War I and like the rise of fascism at that time. Google is shit. I couldn't find ass about it really, and I didn't want to watch like YouTube video essays about it. But just from the stuff that I was able to gather on my most recent watch of it, I should have watched it like 2 or 3 times to really try and soak it all in. But there is like that kind of like post World War I mentality to it, because you have like those lines where it's like, he's going away to another land and it's a terrifying thing to him, and it's like brings that evil kind of home with him. And it's like stuff like that. He also refers to Transylvania as the land of thieves and monsters.
Yeah, or something like that.
It's like, oh jeez.
Yeah, there's a lot of like interesting xenophobia in the movie, and then also. But they're right. So I'm like, is Murnau more talking about like the idea of colonization here, or is he talking about, or both?
Yeah.
And it's also, or Murnau is also a German director who's in his 30s in the 1920s. Maybe neither of these concepts are actually what we're going for, and we're simply looking at it from a lens of watching it in 2024. But that's also what's interesting about art, is meanings can change with the time in which you're watching.
Meanings aren't always intentful either.
Yeah.
They bleed through the subconscious and they'll always... The culture around you will find its way into your work regardless of whether you intend to put it in there or not.
Yeah.
And obviously I think a lot of it was intentional. I mean, he was a big... pioneer of the German Expressionist movement, which obviously has a big focus on the kind of financial and the like what's the term? Like the general
ramifications.
Not ramifications, like infrastructure.
Oh.
How it's all warped and old and gothic looking. Probably because at that point in time, I imagined that they're probably living in buildings that had been built the fucking 18th century, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe not that old, but I'm probably being a little hyperbolic there. But not too much so. I mean... Cusp of the Great Depression, obviously. World War I left Germany financially pretty boned.
Yeah.
It's a complicated subject, but just how this film kind of just has that film layered over top of it is interesting. I wanted to dive into that a bit more and see if there was any good critical analysis of it out there, and I'm sure there's plenty of it.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about movies that are like 100 years old, is there's so many people that have watched these and dissected them. That's like you could spend quite literally a year studying like people's thoughts and feelings on this.
Right. Yeah. It'd be nice if, like, for some films, at least like big seminal cultural films, they released like books with like just like historically relevant essays and stuff.
Yeah, I'm surprised that like they don't do that, like with like kind of boutiques and stuff that like Criterion or stuff, because Criterion will have like one or two essays sometimes in like a box set, and they'll have like, you know, making ofs, and they'll have people talking about it. But yeah, they just make like a 100-page little booklet of different essays and stuff.
Right.
I'd read the shit out of that stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm sure there are things that do that.
Yeah, because I know that there's like compilation books that have like interviews with directors and stuff. So I'm sure there's probably like I know there are for some things. Like I've had essay books on like Twin Peaks and stuff before.
And I have like interview books. I have an interview book of like Bergman's interviews and stuff like that.
But I know like
I couldn't find any on like Murnau specifically, like interviews or like books specifically about Murnau. That there was like one, but it was out of print.
Yeah, a lot of it's probably just because that point in time film preservation wasn't a big thing, and he died so early in the 30s. Just a lot of his interviews probably don't exist anymore.
True.
Sad.
Yeah.
It's the way time works, unfortunately. But in any new medium, because despite the fact that it happens with like every fucking medium, we seem to be like, yeah, there's no need to keep any of this shit around. Forget its historical relevancy. I mean, you're seeing that argument right now with like the internet and the Wayback Machine and like Internet Archive and that lawsuit or lawsuits and stuff that are going on. But yeah, let me think. Is there anything else specifically about Nosferatu that I wanted to mention? Not off the top of my head. But good movie. That ocean shot, real good.
Yeah. I was like, man, he was doing it from the beginning.
Yeah.
He's so good at shooting the ocean. I don't know what it is. This was like just a static shot of the ocean. Like one of them. And I'm like, this looks incredible.
Yeah, no. Yeah, he really likes filming out in the ocean, which, hats off. I imagine, especially during the silent era, that was insane. Because, like, the shooting on water is, like, one of the hardest things to do, apparently, from what I hear. Which I can understand. It's a hard life out there, and especially if you try to bring cameras and crews into the equation. But, yeah, he really liked getting a lot of those shots out there. So, kudos to him for that and starting that trend. Probably earlier than this movie, if I had to guess, but this is the first movie we have where we see it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, alright.
Do you rate things still?
On and off. Okay. Certified classic, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Like, I guess maybe a 10, just because...
Yeah, I think I gave this a 9 my first watch, but it probably will... Murnau movies, every time I rewatch one, I think I like it more, so...
I'm gonna buy the VHS of it, because I was actually looking into buying VHS copies of it, but all of them I were coming across, aside from like a couple that were rare and had lame covers, they're all like 60-minute cuts of the movie. Huh. So I'm going to buy a VHS copy and check out how that is. Just out of curiosity. Because another thing with silent movies, and it'll become more relevant with Faust, because that one, much like Blade Runner, has like 5 cuts of the movie. And I have my Blu-ray set, which has 2 of them, and I just picked one at random. Because I was like, I don't know which one of these is like the more official Murnau-approved version. From what I was reading, I don't think either of them were, but it was the Kino set, so I was like, fuck it. I'm watching one of these. It's gotta work. I watched the German original cut, which I can talk a bit about some of that.
I think I might have as well.
Okay.
I think that's the one on Canopy right now, which is where I watched it.
Probably. But before we talk about Faust, let's talk about The Last Laugh, which is his next movie.
So, one thing to note about Nosferatu is it's an adaptation of... This goes into Last Laugh. It's an adaptation of a book, so there's a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of intertitles. It's like a lot, which is fine. I'm fine with that. And then it felt like Murnau was just like, all right, now watch this. And he's like, and he made one with one intertitle.
Yep. What was it? Just the one that at the end?
Yeah, it sets up because the only other part, change. Even with like, there's the part where they zoom in on the letter that they gave to him, but I think that's it. But that's not even an intertitle. That's like a page. Like,
yeah. I'd probably count those as intertitles, even though they're technically not. They
but even then, even if you do, that's like 2 or 3 in the entire movie.
Yeah. But
which this movie is, when I thought of silent movies as a kid, this is the type of movie I would think of. I'd be like, there's no... They just go... Oh.
This is maybe like the last 10 minutes of this movie is what I would think of. I guess in terms of like the body language, yeah. The last where they're all like, ho, ho, ho. I think when I was a kid and I thought of silent movies, I didn't think of them as being so sad.
Yeah, I think that the last 10 minutes or so of this movie, heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's really like, this is, look, he's happy now. It's like, no, he's not.
No, that fucking...
This makes me feel like shit.
Yeah, that stupid fucking intertitle fucking made...
Yeah, so...
coats that whole ending sequence in a coat of just sadness.
Yeah, so The Last Laugh is about an elderly doorman who's like 55. He's not even very old.
Yeah.
He's a doorman at a hotel, and he's slowing down. He's not as strong as he was.
He gets caught sitting down getting a drink of water once after, like, doing somebody else's job.
Yeah, in the rain, you know?
Yeah.
So he takes a break, and he pretty much he doesn't get fired, he gets shifted to the old man position. The other old man got sent to like a retirement home, and he he's a bathroom attendant, where he's like, oh, here's some soap, and so he's just sitting alone in a room.
This movie made me feel awful on multiple levels, but one of the main things that really fucking hit my nerve is I more or less work the job he got demoted to. I don't have to sit there and paper towels or like sit in there all day, but like I clean bathrooms.
Yeah.
It was like seeing how the society around him reacted to that. It was just like, well, that doesn't make me feel great.
And there's like...
But fuck you, my job's full-time and benefits, so I'm not complaining.
But like his family and his friends pretty much abandon him because he's like, oh, you're not cool anymore. You're not a doorman. You're a bathroom attendant.
Yeah, because the gap there is so fucking big.
Apparently it was in 1920s Germany.
Bathrooms are gross, I get it, but I mean, that's...
But, I mean, he seemed like he was pretty high up in, like, the doorman. He was like he was the leader of the doorman.
Yeah, he was
He had a cool coat that he steals.
Yeah.
It's just really sad.
Yeah, it is.
And his daughter gets, like, married off.
Yeah, she's like marrying a guy or like in the middle.
And then they don't want anything to do with him.
Yeah. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, this guy's so nice. He's
Yeah, he was like nice to all the kids, and they're like, yeah, he's cool. And then next thing you know, he's a loser now. So all the kids like, fuck you, old man.
Yeah. It's just like...
Do you remember Arlo?
Yes.
I was thinking of
course.
We had when we worked in a theater together, there was an older guy who he was a door greeter. He just sat there and went, hi. But, you know, and it's really sad because a lot of old people don't have friends anymore because they're dead.
Yeah.
And, like, jobs are their way of getting out of the house. And it's like...
That, and also, I mean... historically and currently and to the future, elderly people often not always the most financially sound, and we don't, despite efforts in the past, we don't really have systems in place that are doing... I mean, they're holding the water for the most part currently, but obviously Social Security gets cut and shit all the time. We're not getting a dime of it when we get that age. Yeah, my parents probably aren't even.
Yeah.
I guess my parents are barely older than I am, but still.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, we're fucked.
Yeah. Yes, but so were the old people back then. Especially because I don't know what. Obviously, Social Security is like America's thing. I'm sure other countries have similar things.
Yeah.
But I don't think Germany did in 1920 or 1926 or 24.
24.
Yeah,
and then Faust was 26.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, he gets caught slipping, and then basically just kind of goes on a downward spiral because like ends up getting demoted to the bathrooms, and then his wife catches him there, and then he's like kind of distressed and lost in thought about that, and then a customer complains about him because he's like not 100% there. And he assumingly gets fired. I assume. I mean, obviously you don't get an intertitle for it, but
yeah, I don't think he was fired. I think he was just like scolded or like
fired,
given a last
scolded,
warning.
Regardless, more or less the same.
Yeah,
you're at the same point. But yeah, and then he like breaks in and tries to return his jacket and ends up falling asleep in the bathroom, and the security guard like puts the jacket back on him and lets him sleep. And then we get a fun little title card that pops up and is like, well,
in real life, this is how life would end.
But I'm the god of this universe, so I'm gonna give this figure a happy ending. But know that this doesn't happen in real life. And yeah, it's just like he inherits like a shit ton of money from...
Because a rich guy like died in his arms, and I was like, oh, it's well said to give it to the guy who dies in arms.
Yeah.
And then he's like rich, and he also gives the janitor or the security card a bunch of money.
And then he goes into the bathroom, and this is the part that like really at the end was like breaking my heart, because it's like he goes to the bathroom and sees this like toothless old man who's clearly like...
Which I think is I think it's the old guy from the beginning that they sent to the retirement home. Because you see, like, the guy they replace him with.
Yeah. And it's, like, super sad, and he just, like, is staring there, and he does the thing that more rich people need to do, where they get to that point from rags to riches, where he remembers what it was like being that guy, and he feels bad, and he gives him money, and he tells off a guy who's being an asshole to him. Which it's like, yeah. But, yeah, and it's like he rolls off, and he gives everybody a big tip, and lets a homeless guy into his horse carriage, and is just super cool, generous, rich guy.
It's like, this didn't happen.
No.
And it's like, even the movie saying, don't worry, I'm going to make this happen. I was like, I don't believe you.
No. It felt very much... Is it The Handmaiden, that South Korean one, where it felt like if the last 30 seconds of that movie were stretched into a slightly longer sequence. Obviously, the last 30 seconds of that movie were like, yes, you just watched that movie. Thank you. Goodbye. But it kind of felt like that.
Yeah.
That, and I don't know, I guess maybe these movies just occupy the same space in my mind, because they both remind me of Parasite. Because this movie definitely had some, like, Parasite-isms with, like, how, like, just specifically, like, the shit where it's, like, he's, like, expected to, like, fucking dry the rich people's hands, and they can't, they're just, like, so fucking, oh my god, give me that. Just, I have to dry my own fucking hands.
Yeah.
And it's, like, I don't know, that kind of shit sickens me. It's, like, how do you, like... think that you've made such a successful point that like you can demean other people to like, maybe I get it on like certain levels where it's like maybe I think I'm smarter than that guy or something, but to think that like, I don't know, it's like that, like they think of them as insects type mentality where it's like, I just fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, Last Laugh is sad. It's a sad movie.
This is the
I also think
the first one I watched out of all of these. like, Hinata, you want to watch this movie? And she didn't watch it with me, but she was
Good.
like,
She would.
on the chair next to me. I'm like, Hinata, they're being really mean to this old man.
Yeah, this one's sad. She would not have liked that.
Yeah.
But, yeah. I don't have much to say about it. It might... before City Girl, it might have been my least favorite out of what we watched.
I really I like this one a lot.
I do like it. I think it might be just a bit long for what it is, but I'm not gonna be mad at it because a lot of it is kind of like building up the more jovial side of his character, and I think that kind of stuff's important.
I don't know. I don't know if I would think it's too long or like. I think it might just be that it feels so long because intertitles do help kind of break up things. Like, dialogue does help with that.
Maybe a bit.
But I really like this one, like, a lot. And it made me cry a lot. Really made me sad.
I think the only one that I got super emotional at was, I'll save. But, I didn't get moved to... I cried no tears, but I came close with one of them.
I cry a lot at movies still. Which I'm glad.
Yeah, I usually do. Usually it's like the ironic kind of sense, because it's like not sad stuff that makes me cry, but like it'll usually, that's so fucking happy, oh my god, and I'll start crying. But
one thing I'll note about this movie is I can't help it, but I'm like, oh, actors in the 20s in the Germany. Did this guy become a Nazi?
No, I was doing the exact same thing in the back of my mind through like...
And this guy was... I don't know if like he was like but he made Nazi propaganda films. Like, he was an actor during that time, and he was like doing stuff. And I think it's just a weird thing to think about, is like, you can watch a movie that feels so human, so like moving. You can watch a performance that is just astonishing, because I think his body performance is incredible. Like, the face he makes, like of pure anguish that it holds on for like 10 seconds at a time, is incredible. And it's like, and then he made, like, how do you have that kind of humanity in your soul to perform like that and then be like, but Nazi party must be pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the base reaction to that is, oh no, evil, gross. But it's one of those things I guess I would want more context for, because there are also like flip examples of it, like Akira Kurosawa, like the first leg of his career, and a lot of like those quintessential Japanese like masters of cinema, like they also made propaganda movies, but they've also vocally been like, I didn't like doing that, but it was kind of like a necessary step in my career. Yeah, but also they went on to later make films that kind of were outspoken against that sort of thing.
But this is the opposite.
I know.
Yeah,
I know.
It's like, oh, he was already a big actor, and he was in this. He's in Faust. This guy plays Mephisto.
Yeah, I know.
And I'm like, he does feel like the devil.
Yeah, we were joking before the podcast. Was that sequel to Shadow of a Vampire where John Malkovich makes a deal with the devil to star in his adaptation of Faust? But it certainly is a kind of the interesting flip there. And I assume, based off of your research, he didn't do anything after World War II?
I don't think so. I think he died like in like 40 or something. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, that's sad.
But on the flip side, there's like the guy who plays Hutter in Nosferatu. He fled Germany because he was a communist. He's like, this is not gonna work out well for me.
Yeah, I know he...
And he went to like the Soviet Union, and he was part of a group called like the United Group for a Free Germany or something that was like...
And I know he... Or no, I'm thinking of the guy who started Caligari. Never mind. Disregard that. They look kind of alike, so my brain morphed them into one person. Yeah, no, that's kind of a bummer. But yeah, I'll try not to think about that next time I watch this. Although that might come in handy when I watch Faust, because it feels oddly fitting for his character in that.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, he lived until 50, but like his career was over because he was in a bunch of Nazi propaganda.
Yeah. Fair. Yeah.
And there's a movie he was in called The Blue Angel when he was in the U.S. doing stuff with a woman named Marlene Dietrich, who was a German lady who fled Germany because she didn't like Nazis. And while he was in like Nazi stuff, she's like, fuck that guy!
Good. Yeah, fuck that guy. Good actor, shit person.
Yeah. But yeah, what would you give the last one?
Probably like an 8, maybe.
I'd give this one a 9 too.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a 9 kind of day, I think.
Yeah. I think I was less hot on it despite me liking it until that last act switch. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a really unique element that it brought to the movie. But yeah. So yeah. Faust. The other one with the same actor that we were just talking about. This time he plays the devil.
The main character... Is the main guy that plays young Faust also the guy who plays old Faust? Because I can't find a credit for old Faust. And I'm like, is that just really good, like, beard work? But I'm surely there's somebody else that plays that. That does not look like the same guy.
It looks like a different guy, but maybe... I don't know where my phone... That's right here. Maybe. I don't know.
It's funny going into this because my only knowledge of Faust came from Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah. I mean, I had seen this years and years before I had seen Phantom of the Paradise.
You'd seen this one already?
Yeah.
Oh.
I watched it when I was maybe 14 or something, but...
Wow, why?
Because I liked Nosferatu, and I was exploring the silent horror movies that...
Not a lot of 14-year-olds are going around watching silent films.
Well, I was a weird 14-year-old.
What was I doing when I was playing Yu-Gi-Oh? Playing Magic?
You're talking to the guy who watched Munchie and Munchie Strikes Back when he was 7 years old.
Yeah, but that's cinema.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Munchie. One of my coworkers, whenever she's not at her computer, I'll go to her computer and just pull up a picture of Munchie and then run away.
You gotta pull up the scene where it's the pizza guy chasing his pizza.
There's one where they open the door and he's in bed and he looks like he's stoned. You know, that's the one I love pulling up the most because he's like...
When he first walks into his bedroom, he's just chilling there. Yeah. Munchie. Good movie. I wish we got that third sequel where he helped out Bill Clinton.
Yeah. We could make one now.
I was thinking, I wonder how expensive the rights to Munchie are. Because maybe not for making a film, but maybe doing a shitty little pixel game and seeing if I can buy the rights for the video game.
He could help out Austin Butler to get the role of Elvis.
He could.
Oh my gosh! Faust is making me sneezy.
But...
Ancient epic German folklore.
Yes.
Opens with an angel and a demon fighting each other. And it looks fucking insane.
Yes.
The demon, when it shows up, they have this giant wing they've built that's in front of him. Mm-hmm. It looks fucking insane. This movie...
Yeah.
I think, it probably has more dips than any of the other movies for me in, terms of, pacing.
Yes.
And, there's a lot of... But it also might be the most visually stunning silent movie I've seen.
Yeah. It's regarded as, a lot of people consider it, on the level... Or same technical visual level as, Metropolis.
Which I have not seen yet. But
it's good.
But, yeah, there's a scene where you see the town and you see the demon in the background and he blows the smoke through the town.
Yeah, that shot.
I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's probably my favorite. It's like maybe tied for my favorite shot in the movie. Because I also really like the one where he first asks for his youth and he like is like over by the fireplace and gets real big. But while we're still kind of on the subject of this actor, or near it, I will say my big critique of this movie is I don't really like... There are parts of his performance I like in this, but I thought they should have hired someone who maybe looked a little more striking to play the character. I think there are some shots where it really works. Like, I really liked like the shot where he's big and over the city, but like most of the time...
Once he's in his dumb little costume, I do sort of agree. Earlier, like when you first see him and he's in just like his like almost, it looks like a beggar kind of thing, and he's got a little, and you see like the glowing eyes and
the glowing eyes were cool.
That's one of the shots that like genuinely freaked me out. I was like, what the fuck? And then he like puts on his Dracula costume.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck is this
weird
haircut?
Mickey Mouse
I don't even know.
The Astro Boy haircut.
Yeah, I don't even know if it's necessarily his like facial structure or his like... I think it might just be the costume. That it just doesn't do it for me.
I like the costume. I just don't... Not to sound like body shame or anything, coming from a little bit of a round gentleman. I just feel like for that role, I would expect someone like maybe a bit like more imposing, like taller, scrawny, more of a Max Shrek type. Not saying Max Shrek specifically, but like comparing it to Nosferatu, like one of the key strengths of that movie is just like how creepy Max Shrek looks, and I don't think that comes across in this one all the time. It does in a lot of those like shots where they obviously put in like the extra work to give him like the glowing eyes or to make him look big, but like when it's just like him going around, it's like, and maybe it works because like the role of the devil in this feels less like it's supposed to be menacing and more of a shithead.
Yeah, like that's why I wasn't necessarily... Like once he puts on his dumb little outfit and then starts doing mischievous things,
but
I don't necessarily think he needs to be as imposing.
Yeah, I guess I just kind of wanted more of like a Vincent Price quality from him where he can both balance the goofy but like swap to a more terrifying demeanor like on a dime, which I don't think this actor necessarily pulled off all the way in this role. But I don't know. I mean, the movie's from 1926. It's obviously stood the test of time. Yeah. I'm probably wrong, but that's just how I feel about it.
That's fair.
But he is a fucking Nazi propagandist, so fuck him. You miscast.
Yeah. I mean, you know, Nazis playing the devil. You know.
True. Maybe not miscast in a certain sense.
The guy who plays Faust in this, I was reading, I think it was like the Letterboxd description of him. He's like, yes, he was known for his boyish good looks. And then the immediate next sentence was like, both men and women were interested in him. And I'm like, what the fuck am I reading?
Just okay. I mean, fair, but... Interesting fact. Was that not a common trait back then? I mean, obviously.
What the hell's going?
Is it more vocalized with that actor in particular?
Apparently. But yeah, Faust is an adaptation of a play, which was an adaptation of an old folklore like legend.
Yeah. About the German print that I watched about this. It was one of the versions I was reading up on, and apparently, I don't know if they fixed the titles for later versions, but they essentially hired this guy to do the intertitles for Faust. And when he did it, I guess he took like most of it from the actual novel that's like the popular version of it. Goethe, I think is how you pronounce that guy's name or whatever. But did like mostly was just kind of taking the dialogue and lines out of that and kind of throwing in a couple ad-libs of his own. And apparently, like, Murnau and the studio weren't super happy with it and tried to hire a different intertitle artist, but apparently they liked that guy's even less. So when the movie did come out, they went back and used the first guy's titles. So I don't know if, like, because like I said, I think I said this on camera earlier, but there's like 5 cuts of this movie. I don't know if all of which are surviving or not. Probably not, if I had to guess, but yeah, I know Murnau, I think, liked the international version he made, but I don't know which specific version that was. I was trying to look. My Kino had, like, it just said like the 1926 like German restored version or the 1930 cut. I don't know what the 1930 cut is specifically. I was trying to look around. But yeah, apparently like the big popular versions are the German, the American, and the French version, which apparently, according to what I was reading online, the French version is like the worst version because it's got like the least amount of scenes and there's like weird cuts to it or whatever. But yeah, anyway. But yeah, the story of Faust, the guy sells his... It's kind of like the Book of Job story where it's like angel, demon, make a bet, and it's basically like I can corrupt one of your like most loyal followers. Only unlike the Book of Job, instead of it being like a strong-willed Christian who's not going to turn his beliefs, or I guess more than a Christian because it's obviously rooted in like 4 layers of the Abrahamic religions, but probably more than 4 layers, but I digress. But obviously in this version, it's when the devil goes to him, it's like, I can make you a sweet deal. Faust is like, fuck yeah, okay.
I mean, yeah.
You're the devil confirming that like the God that I've believed in my whole life and been talking about exists. Okay, yeah, I'll sign a deal for eternal damnation for you. But
and then he immediately like uses it to try to do good. He's trying to like save them because the town is immediately like, are they overrun with a plague or something? Yeah. And he's trying to, and he's saving people's lives, but they're like, this guy's literally Satan.
Yeah, it's like 2 seconds before the monkey's paw comes in, and it's like, oh, this guy, because one of the people with the plague, they're like, please bring my daughter back. I don't know if he's bringing them back to life or if he's just curing them. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, it seems like the first time he just cures someone, and the second time, the one that makes them like question, I think he's bringing them back. Because I think what they were trying to imply.
But she's holding a big crucifix, and then he can't bring her back. He's like, kind of, and then they're like, the fucking devil! And they chase him back inside. And all of this is during a trial period for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, he basically,
and he's like, well, what about this? He's like, I don't want this anymore. And they're like, but look at this. And he shows him, look, you used to be sexy. And he shows him a little mirror. He's like, you want to be young again? He's like, yeah.
Yeah, no argument from me here. Let's make it so. He's like, what? Oh, check this woman out. She's cute, right? yeah. Well, let's go get her. That was one of the scenes I actually really liked, too. When they went and kind of like mesmerizes her with a big diamond.
The most beautiful woman in Italy.
I guess.
Yeah.
She's aight.
I think I like the later woman more.
Hey, I agree.
Gretchen, I think her name was.
Yeah, I think so. But, like, mesmerizes her with a big diamond, which isn't the part I liked from the scene, but after the two of them leave, then, like, all of the people that were around, like, kind of come to, and they're like, the one dude's like, hey, my wife, or my...
and then Mephisto fucking just teleports in and stabs him, and then teleports away.
Yeah, he gets stabbed, and he's like, oh! And he's like, just kidding, and, like, fades away, and, like, kills the guy, and then, time resumes, and everybody just runs away.
You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I like that time dilation, like, editing. It made it... It's like, yeah, that does seem pretty creepy. Because it gets dark for a second, and it's like... You can tell that that's just what they're seeing, is, like, that dark vision of him, and then it just resumes, and he's gone, and they're all just like... Oh, fuck, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
And I like a lot of, like, the presence of evil in this movie. Like, there's lots of scenes with Gretchen later on, where you do kind of see that the characters can, like, sense it, and I like that there's kind of, like, that. It's, like, they're, like, fucking, like, oh, like, at first, like, it's clearly, like, abrasive, and then they kind of, like, give in to the term I'm looking for, I don't know, it's gone. The fucking pleasure of it.
Okay.
I was trying to look for the word that people use when it's like they're on like heroin. It's like a more medical term.
The carnal pleasures of demonology.
No, I don't know. I'm not gonna spend 5 minutes chasing whatever term I was just looking for. But yeah. The euphoria.
Yeah.
That was the term I was looking for. It's like, yeah. But yeah, so he gets this, like, most beautiful woman in Italy, takes her back to his castle, and then right when they're about to do, fucking, the devil shows up and he's like, your time's about out, you gotta make the big deal with me, huh? And you wanna keep your youth? You're an old man now, and you got that fine woman over there waiting for you.
He's like, I want to be young. And he's like, serve me forever. He's immediately, yeah, fuck yeah, bro.
Yeah. Hail Satan. Come on.
Like, Faust, no!
So yeah, he signs it. And
he's immediately bored of Italy, though.
Yeah, he's like,
fuck it. Take me home.
Yeah, I want to go home. And then he goes home, and then immediately finds this, like, good church-going girl named Gretchen. And he's like, I like her. And the devil's like, she's a goody two-shoes. She's not your type now. You're a devil worshiper. Go find someone else. He's like, no. Like, just she's the one. Go make her fall in love with me. That's what I want. He's like, alright. And, yeah, she's super, resistant to the devil's charms at first. But then he has a box with a magical necklace, which is going to slowly penetrate her will and individuality and bring her to the side of the devil. So he sneaks it in her drawer, and then she starts wearing it, and it, like, I don't know, it's like the ring of power. It just slowly kind of is corrupting her. And she ends up falling for Faust's charms during this period. And then, what's it called? Basically, Faust and her end up, like, in her bedroom, and the devil then goes down to the bar where her brother is and is like, yeah, fucking starts, like, bad-mouthing his sister, and is like, yeah, well, your sister's, hurry home, you might find the guy she's got in her bed. So he does, and then he's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet moment, a bit, it reminded me of. They sword fight, but the devil comes up, like, behind the guy. This looked like, it didn't look like an impressive shot, super, but, like, the concept of it and how they shot it made it look like he, like, just, like, jammed his sword, like, up his spine and into his skull. It's, like, pretty effective, like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And, yeah, the guy just, he doesn't drop dead instantly. I forgot. He fucking badmouths his sister before
yeah, he's
dying.
Like, read me my last rites, and then take this harlot away.
Yeah,
like,
strain her up and throw stones at her. She's a fucking whore. Like, he literally is, like...
Yeah.
It's like, oh, God. It's like, the man... Your fucking... unfaithful man murdered me. But, yeah.
My sister's a whore, and now I'm dying.
Yes. Jesus fucking Christ. But, yeah, so they end up fucking stringing her up, but oh no, she got pregnant from that whole ordeal. Meanwhile, the devil has, like, turned the mob against Faust, and...
Yeah, he's like, oh, dude, you better run, and then immediately starts running around the town going, no, fuck, this guy just killed this guy!
Yeah. And, yeah, the two of them then fly away to the mountains.
Yeah.
Go away for a little bit.
While she is having a baby, and then the baby fucking dies.
Yeah, it freezes to death.
And then they are gonna kill her for killing her baby.
Yeah, they throw her up on the pyre, and, fucking Faust...
Like, I demand
she cries out to him before, while she's, like, in the gallows.
Gretchen. That shot's so sick. Where you see her screaming, and it's like old... You see Faust's face in the background. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like him sitting on the mountainside. He's like, you lied to me. You said she was going to be alright. We need to go save her now. And basically, yeah, he goes to save her, and the devil's like, I'm not doing shit. It's too late. They've already got her.
And he said, damn my youth, I wish this had never happened. And he starts running towards her. He's like, well, I wished. And then he makes him old again.
Yeah. And then he jumps into the fire, and the two of them embrace in the fire, and she doesn't care that he's an old man, and he doesn't care that her flesh is melting off of her face.
And they die.
And they die, but their souls are saved
Yeah, like the demon tries to steal the soul again, but then there's another angel battle, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna shoot a fucking lightning bolt at you because love is stronger than this.
Yep. And then the demon loses, and the movie ends.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't like that ending, but like you said, this movie's got like ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
But
I think
it's very good.
Yeah, I like the ending. I like
it.
It's so fucking dark, and then suddenly it's just like, but love conquers all. After
the last laugh, all of Murnau's like happy endings feel disingenuous. I'm always like,
I don't know. This one I bought into. I don't know why. I
don't know. Maybe it's just the rapidness that it kind of happened, where it's just all of a sudden like the angel shows up and it's kind of like quickly said and done. And I was like, oh, okay. But I don't know. I think I find it more interesting if like maybe like they find a way to redeem her soul, since she technically didn't sell it to the devil, but maybe Faust still gets fucked over. The dude sold his soul to the fucking devil.
Yeah.
But
love conquers all.
I'll keep that in mind if I ever sell my soul to the devil. I'll be like, nah, man, I saw fucking Faust.
Yeah. I'm gonna go find a nice young farm girl.
Yeah.
This is kind of like the opposite of City Girl.
Yeah. Sure.
He's old boy. Wait. It's a different movie.
Yes. But yeah.
Yeah, I think depending on how effective this movie is for you will probably be on how much you can buy into like the religious themes of this movie.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not a religious person. Yeah. I kind of take this movie for the atmosphere and the surface level.
Yeah. I can... As much as I'm not religious, I can get down with kind of a religiously fables and stuff like that.
I mean,
I think
same. If it's well done.
I think the themes in this are very cool, and I like the idea of. I loved this movie. I loved all these movies. Like I just had a blast with all of them. Pretty much.
No, they were all pretty great.
And this movie, like I said, like even the parts where I was a little bored, it looked great. Even the like boring parts looked great. Mm-hmm. Like it feels like it looks better than anything else that was coming out at this time. And then there'll just be a shot that I'm like, oh my god, that's better than anything I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was 98 years ago? Oh.
Yeah. It's funny how, I don't know, effort and on-screen miniatures and shit can...
Yeah, the shot of them when they first get on his cloak and they're just like flying over mountains and stuff. It's great.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of great shots throughout this movie. Like, so many. It's fucking insane. Yeah, this one's like perhaps, or honestly, yeah, it's more atmospheric than Nosferatu. I might like the atmosphere of Nosferatu more personally.
Yeah.
But like...
Because it is more just like straight horror.
Mm-hmm.
While this is like...
Yeah. It's like that one is like the horror in our grounded reality almost. Whereas this one's like the opposite.
Yeah.
Where it's more of a fantastical set. And obviously this one was shot in studio. Whereas Nosferatu was on location a lot. So, I mean, that probably has something to do with it. You can obviously manufacture more atmosphere and controlled environment, but yeah, what would you give this one? 9. All straight 9s all across the board.
Don't worry, I think it was my last 9 for the night.
Okay. Yeah, I'd probably give this one an 8 as well.
Now it's time for Sunrise.
Sunrise. Yes. Sunrise, yeah.
So this is the one we watched like 4 years ago or something.
Yeah.
When we were doing our weekly stuff, and you gave it a 6 then.
Yeah, I was pretty lukewarm on it. I think it was a mixture of... some movies in that group setting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Raisin in the Sun we watched in that group setting, and then I rewatched a couple years later by myself, and it like worked tremendously more.
Yeah.
Same thing with this. I'm glad I watched this alone this time.
Yeah.
Even though I liked it, I think probably the same amount or maybe just a tad more than I watched it the first time, but it was like an uphill battle to like certain movies when I was watching it in like a big group setting. Because there are some movies that are like fun, like big action movies. Those are fun to watch in like a group setting.
I was thinking about the Boogans.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, but
especially because the
build up,
and the subtitles were just completely wrong.
Yeah, yeah, I forgot about the subtitle aspect. Yeah, those were. We just kept them up the whole time.
Yeah, because it was just really funny.
Yeah. But, yeah, so I mentioned earlier, I completely, more or less, misremembered this movie. So here's what I thought the movie was before I rewatched it and was pleasantly surprised. I thought the plot of this movie was, farm boy, farm wife, city girl. And, like, city girl convinces farm boy to, like, leave wife, move to city. And I thought, like, the wife also, of her own accord, later, like, moved to the city and became, like, a big girl boss in the city. And then was, like, the husband then fell in love with her again, leaving the city girl. I don't know if I'm mixing it up with a different movie.
I don't know.
I mean, it sounds generic enough. It could be like a million different movies, but that's what I had remembered this as, and then being like, But, yeah, rewatching it again, I guess with my full attention, I thought I was paying attention the first time I saw it. I probably was, like I said, sometimes.
It's just a lot, yeah.
A lot of movies and other stuff rattling around in here. Plus, I smoke a lot of weed, so, but... yeah, aside from, like, Nosferatu, which is, like, grandfathered in, because it's, like, obviously, like, one of the greatest horror movies of all time. This is, like, probably, like, my favorite out of what we watched.
Oh, wow, okay, cool.
I really liked Sunrise this time.
I think this movie's great. There's something about it. I think that, like, you have to view... You don't have to, obviously. But when I watch this, I feel like I view the characters more as, like, vehicles than anything else. Because it's like, you really... I actually feel like this is the most, like, fantastical, like, version. Because it's like, yeah, this wouldn't happen like this in real life. No. Which is fine. Movies don't have to
Not
do
likely.
that. Yeah. Like, this guy tries to kill his wife and then spends the rest of the movie... realizing his mistake and winning her back and stuff like that.
Yeah, especially because, I mean, obviously, I don't think I realized this the first time we watched it, but it hit me like a brick this time. Like, this is, like, clearly a movie that's deeply embedded in the DNA of, like, David Lynch and, like, Mulholland Drive. I mean, obviously, there's that shot early on when they're, like, in the bog and, like, looking and imagining the city, and it's the big jazz band, and it's, like, super chaotic. That's, like, the opening sequence when she's in the dance competition with the opening credits. Mulholland Drive are very similar. But that, and, like... I feel like this is, like, a David Lynch movie without, like, that, like, third act, like... And this is where it was all, like, a delusion the whole time.
It's just like, no, sometimes... love stories and stories like this just happen like that, yeah.
But, like,
it's more like movies are the delusion.
Yes. But, yeah, I don't know. There's so much about this one I loved. Whether it was its technical aspects, because, like, the title cards were fucking weird and creative, like that part where, I guess, before we get into the technical aspects, let's briefly talk about the real plot of this movie instead of my imaginary one. So the plot of this movie is farm boy has farm wife, but he's been cheating on her with this city girl that's been staying in their little community for a little while.
And she's like, come to the city with me. He's like, I can't, I have a wife. And she says, what if she drowned.
Yes. So she cooks up this big plan where he's like, take her on a boat and you can float with these like sticks or whatever the fuck they are.
Yeah.
You can say it was an accident. So he's like, oh, fuck. Well, this chick's really fucking attractive.
She is hot.
I gotta kill my... Honestly, I think he was making a big mistake. I found his actual wife way more attractive.
Me too, but I get it. You know.
So it's like...
It's about the thing that you don't have.
Yes. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna murder my wife and I guess abandon my child and move to the city with this evil woman. So he talks to his wife, who has already felt like she knows that he's cheating on him. She's like staying up at night, crying with the kid because he walked out right as she was about to serve dinner. And it's like, also, while we're still at around this point in the film, I love the lengths that you had to go to for a booty call back in the day, pre-text messengers, like phones. We can go stand outside your fence and inconspicuously whistle in the middle of the night.
Yeah. I can't whistle, so I would have
Sex!
Sex time! Sex time!
Sex in the swamp!
Booty call!
Yeah. It's like, oh, my husband's gone out to cheat. I heard her calling very loudly. But...
Oh, what's that weird bird? I know that's your fucking whore out there.
Yeah.
Oh, what's that? I don't know. That's weird. No, I better go check it out. Might be a couple hours, though.
Birds and their mating calls. But, yeah, it goes out. Goes out to meets her at the swamp. God. Yeah, I could talk about the David Lynch parallels I saw throughout this one, because she's got, like, the high heels and it's, like, through the muddy swamp. It's very Lynchian in nature. That whole contrast of, like, the beauty of, like, modern suburban life, and then the gross grotesqueness of nature. It's like the opening shot of Blue Velvet that everyone always talks about. The grass and the ants.
They gotta watch this movie.
I'm sure David
A lot of David Lynch fans would do well to watch some silent films.
They would, because it's like, he fucking loves them, and it's like, why don't you go watch the shit that you liked? Go watch...
It's the same thing with, like, Tarantino fans. Like, Tarantino, even if I don't like all his movies, he has very good taste in movies, and his taste is very eclectic at the very least.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like, yeah, if you just watch, or even, like, Edgar Wright, even though I haven't really enjoyed Edgar Wright's, like, more recent catalog, he has that list of, like, 1,001 movies to see before you die or whatever. Yeah. And that's a great list to go off of, because it's so diverse, you know?
There's a good handful of, like, actors that have clips on YouTube where they'll talk about movies, and I'll just, like, sit down and watch them. Quentin Tarantino, Bill Hader's.
Yeah, Criterion does a thing called Adventures in Movie Going, where they'll talk to an actor, and they'll talk about how much, like, movies mean to them and stuff, and then they'll pick out, like, 4 or 5 movies that are usually streaming on Criterion, and they'll kind of introduce those movies, tell why they like them, and then they'll have that movie available to stream. And I'm like, that's genius. I'm like, other streaming services should do that.
They need one of those with Nick Cage. Anyway.
Well, it's even like Nick Cage, like, every time I watch, he has such an eclectic collection, too, like, idea, too. Even, like, the fake version of him in Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yeah.
Which I need to see Dr. Caligari.
It's good. Very cool. It's
like, even, you know, people come up to me and they're like, "Oh, did you know a lot about movies?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do, but I don't know enough." Like, I won't. I feel like I'll die at the age of 90 and still have not seen nearly as many movies as I would have liked to. Like, art is this ever-present thing, and it's like, I also like books, I also like paintings, I like art in general. It's like,
yeah, for sure.
There's not enough time in the day, even if I didn't work at all, there's not enough time in the day to experience all the art we have to offer. So that's what makes me even more pissed when people are just, like, so attached to the newest thing. like, there's plenty of movies that have come out this year that I've loved. You know, I watch a lot of new releases. I watch a lot of old releases. People just need to diversify their interests and their...
Yeah. I'm not necessarily mad at the newest thing. I think the big thing that gets me is, like, when fans of the newest things are, like, so dismissive of the older things that may have inspired it.
Yeah.
And view it as, like, outdated or old or cliched or boring.
Also, there's so many techniques that we don't see anymore because they don't exist. Like, you know, there's like specific, like Technicolor. We don't get movies lit that way anymore. Or the coloring's not the same because those companies don't exist anymore. That material isn't printed anymore. Like, things that cannot exist. People can, like, there's a movie that came out in, like, 2016 called The Love Witch that, like, digitally tries to recreate that. And it does look good.
It does.
But the texture's not quite there. Like, you know, it's these things don't exist anymore. So by not watching old movies, you're literally robbing yourself of, like, a history and a history lesson, but also just, like, techniques and things that don't exist.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing yourself a disservice.
Yeah. I mean, I feel that way about just kind of life in general as well. I mean, obviously there's, on a broader scale, I mean, obviously, like, a lot of older things that it's, like, old techniques of society, for lack of a better term. It's like, that would be nice if we had it today. It would be very beneficial, but obviously current societies are more not based on what's beneficial to us, but what's practical cost-wise, so certain things might go away. And that also ties into the movie making, because, like, obviously, like, I feel like practical effects are, like, the big thing, or in-camera effects, like we were talking about. It's like, you don't get a whole lot of those anymore unless you're a director that has a lot of pull. And even, like, directors that do have a lot of pull, like, get a lot of resistance. Like, back in the 90s, when Francis Ford Coppola did his adaptation of Dracula, he wanted a bunch more shots where they shot it on the old crank cameras, but he was only able to get those couple shots because the other producers on the film that weren't him were like, no, that's too expensive. And he's like, he has a quote up there. He's like, I would have done more of that, but they literally wouldn't let me. So it's like, yeah. But anyway, Sunrise, yes. So yeah, he so he's like, I guess I have to murder my wife because this evil city girl wants me to, and I can't say no to her because she is attractive. So he,
It's hard to say no to women.
I guess so.
Especially beautiful women. Unless it's about your wife.
Unless it's about your wife. But he doesn't have the nerve, so he, decides to go up to his wife, and she gets so excited, and her acting is fantastic.
She's so good. That's Janet Gaynor, I think her name is.
Yeah,
I've seen her in a couple things now.
Yeah,
she's just tremendous. I think he's fantastic too. Yeah, especially like the parts in the boat where he's like,
the parts where he's
like determining his life, like what will happen here is fantastic.
Yeah, I honestly think he's good throughout the whole movie. But
me too.
Those parts specifically, yeah.
Maybe I'm just so mad they shaved his beautiful little stubble. Makes him so sexy.
That's true.
And he looks all dark and brooding, and then he's like, hello.
Yeah. It kind of works. I get what they were going for. It tonally fit with that point in the film. But, excuse me, everyone.
He takes her, and she's so excited, and they are like, yeah, I'm gonna go take you on the boat, and then they're out in the middle of the lake, and he's like, walks up to her, and he's like,
yeah.
And she's like, yeah. And then he decides, he's like, what the fuck am I doing?
He's like gonna strangle her, and she's like, like, she like looks at him and pleads, and he stops, and then he's like, all right. So he takes her back to land, and she immediately runs away, and he chases her down through the city, and she does that thing. There's a lot of this in Murnau's films throughout pretty much most of them, which we saw, where I would call it like the I don't know, like they like all the women in his movies get really traumatized at one point.
They huddle and
like
they tuck themselves down.
Yeah. It's like a very common body trait or body language trait.
They try to make like the antagonist of the scenes as physically imposing as possible, and they try to make the kind of the victims as small as possible for that.
Yeah.
Just to kind of convey that power dynamic even more.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, he basically takes her around, finally kind of gets her to come out of her shell a little bit during a lunch, but she's still, like, obviously traumatized. But then as they're leaving the restaurant, she breaks down and sobs a couple times. But across the street, there's this wedding going on, and they both kind of spot it, and you can tell that they've both been feeling dejected in their marriage for a long time, and they see this couple getting married, and they kind of go over there in this traumatized, delusional haze, and see this couple get married, and it's like a death and rebirth for their relationship. Mm. So they kind of, like, personally renew their vows through this, vicariously through this couple that's getting married. And then they leave the church, and it's like they're just madly in love with each other again. There's a point where she comes around, and he's the one who's more in his shell, and she gets him to come out. She's like, "All right, I forgive you.
And he goes,
fucked up." Yeah. And then the next, like, maybe like 20, 30 minutes of the movie is just them running around in Love and City.
And I was,
a little slice of life stuff.
Yeah, I like when we were watching City Girl together, I had mentioned, I just like the, more slice of life, like the just regular everyday stuff, because, it's such a different, I like the differences, and I like the same vibe. Like, there are things that feel the same. There's a scene in this where they're like, "Oh, the peasant dance starts to play."
Oh, yeah.
And it reminded me of The Last Laugh a little bit. Like, the way that Murnau films people, like, interacting with poor people. And then they have a wonderful little dance. And I love dance scenes in movies. Especially movies that, like, aren't, like, musicals or, like, filled with dance numbers. I like just, like, a natural dancing where they're at a dance or something.
I like dance scenes in silent movies that have pigs.
Oh, yeah, Dancing Pig.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I haven't watched Dancing Pig in probably 4 years.
Same.
I need to watch it.
It's like, what, 3 minutes long?
Yeah, it's really scary.
Yeah, it's terrifying. Fucking pig.
The Dancing Pig.
But,
I should just have, for this podcast, I should just have it on repeat, just whenever the poster's not up, it should just be the Dancing Pig.
There you go. Instead
4
of,
minutes long. It's so fucking scary!
Instead of Munchie, you can start leaving pictures of the Dancing Pig on your...
Oh, I think she'd be scared.
Probably. I mean, if Munchie doesn't scare her, I don't see why the Dancing Pig would be.
I've been putting Hank from To Catch a Yeti recently. Did I show you pictures of Hank?
Yes.
He's cool.
I thought he was Teak at first.
I really like that guy.
I can see why.
He's tremendous. Tremendous.
Yeah. Yeah. Get you a plush of it or
This
something.
is me watching Murnau. Yeah!
It's like if Gizmo and Teak had a
Yeah. Yeah. There's Teak.
Yeah.
There's Teak, everybody.
Yeah.
Signed picture of Teak.
Signed picture.
Yeah. Exie and Jules got me this for Christmas one year. The person that played Teak signed this. I still haven't seen this movie.
Yeah.
I just know.
It's from the Ewoks movie.
It's from
right?
the second Ewoks movie. I haven't seen either.
I saw them both. I had a recorded tape that was like recorded in the 80s when I was a kid. It's the same way I used to watch Uncle Buck as a kid, also on like an old recorded tape from the 80s. I always thought it was super comfy. Those 80s commercials that would come on.
There's
super strange, but
there's a couple YouTube channels that'll just like do full recordings of like old tapes
the
or something.
Nostalgia Critic. No, I know.
So sometimes it's been a while, but sometimes I would just because the digital like scuffiness of VHS tapes definitely like especially and then digitizing it has a really weird vibe that I dig.
Yeah,
I want to dig for like every movie, but the random movies that nobody knows about or forgot about, it really makes them. It feels like you're transported back in time.
I feel it.
Like Sunrise. I remember, I really wish I had gotten into like silent film before I did, because like I missed out on the 100-year version of like Safety Last by like a year and a half. I could have probably found a showing somewhere near us if we had gotten into it.
Probably. In one of the big cities, yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's like I would love to see, like, Trip to the Moon is almost 125 years old. I would love to see that on a big screen.
Yeah. There are places that do, like... I tagged you in the one...
Yeah, I saw that, yeah.
What movie was that?
Demons?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, that was the orchestral thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But...
It was Goblin gonna be there?
No, I think they're just having someone perform the soundtrack.
Oh, okay.
Are Goblin alive?
I know some of them are, because they were touring.
But, like... And we have that theater downtown, and they play stuff on film. I watched that Harakiri on film.
Oh, yeah.
Which was extraordinary. The texture, it really felt like the movie was different.
Yeah.
That movie's incredible.
Yeah, it is.
It's like, that movie would be the best movie ever made if that director also hadn't made the actual best.
I know. And then I need to watch more from that director, because, those are the two that I think the only two I've seen.
Didn't we watch... No, we watched Quite On together. And we watched Samurai Rebellion.
Oh, yeah, we did a deep dive on him, didn't we?
Yeah.
What was his name?
Masaki Kobayashi.
Masaki Kobayashi, that's right. Yes. Okay. Well, I still need to watch more movies. And maybe rewatch the ones I watched.
Yeah. Harakiri, I want to rewatch again. That's one of the movies that's like... That's a movie that I think I could probably watch like once a week if I really like needed to. Like if I only owned like a handful of movies, I think that'd be one of them.
Yeah. It's very good. Very good.
I think Murnau probably has a couple that I'd probably... Especially because if I only had a couple movies, I'd want to pay even more attention to. And there's so... Murnau, especially in Sunrise, they're so filled to the brim with stuff. Because he wants to evoke so much emotion and so much information in every shot. Because there's no dialogue. There's no, like, spoken dialogue and stuff like that.
Well, there's that one scene where...
Oh!
Yeah, I think it's the orchestra. They're like, get out of the way! We're going! Yeah. But, yeah.
Which that scene's great. It's like a proto green screen where they, like, manually have cut out.
Yeah.
Like, each frame it looks like.
I mean, there was a lot of that throughout the movie, because I mean there's that shot obviously where they're like walking through the street and then it's like the fields or whatever, but there's also like I said, like the scene where they're in the swamp and seeing the jazz band play, and there's a lot of like just those like
it's really
transposing kind of thing going on.
You see a lot of the same stuff repeated in Murnau films, like you see with a lot of the stuff he does. But I feel like there's a lot of similarities in what he's doing in Faust and in this. It's just in really different types of ways. But he's doing like the same like types of shots.
And it makes sense. They were his two movies that he's talking about making Sunrise while he was in the middle of making Faust. So I'm sure a lot of the shit he was trying on Faust, he's writing notes down. Gotta do this for Sunrise, but better and more grounded in reality. Because I guess that movie's more grounded in reality than Faust, but still pretty fantastical.
But yeah, so after the like 30 minutes of just like city life, they started rowing home
in the moonlight. Which the second they did that, it's like
no,
don't get back in that boat. Because I wasn't expecting what happened to happen. I was expecting like maybe it was like they were both going to be in the boat and be like, oh, this is sweet, and then it just kind of linger and be like, oh yeah, he almost murdered me in here earlier, and then like the reality is gonna set in, which doesn't quite happen. Instead, the city girl's murder plan just comes into reality because an actual storm happens, and basically almost
he washes up on shore. He's convinced she's dead. She has the sticks that he had put in there to save him. So she survives from that, but he thinks she's dead and he tries to go kill the city girl. And he's about to when like his mother-in-law or something yells, hey yo, she's alive, pretty much. I couldn't remember the ending of this movie, so when I was watching, I'm like, oh god, did she die?
I know.
I couldn't remember.
Because, every fucking Murnau movie ends in, like, a fucking downer.
Yeah.
It's...
Even, like, Faust is uplifted, but they still fucking died. The baby froze to death.
The baby froze to death, and
her brother died. Like, all these people died. Yeah.
Burned to death. Yeah. So it's like a bittersweet ending, but yeah, Nosferatu, I mean, the fucking Ellen dies, fucking guy in the last laugh, fucking potentially loses his job, and then we get that delusional last act.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll talk about City Girl and, what was the other one we watched?
Tabu,
yes.
the first one I watched.
Yeah.
Like, the first Murnau film I had seen.
Yes. Good one.
But, yeah, I really like Sunrise. There's something, I can't put my foot on it. There's something that kind of keeps it from the same level as the other ones for me. I'm not sure. I think it's great, but it just doesn't quite click for me like the other ones did. Maybe I couldn't get over the fact that he tried to kill his wife, even though I felt like I did.
I think that was a big part of maybe why I didn't like it so much the first time, because back then especially, I was much more like, well, that doesn't make sense. Like, why would a character logically do that? Whereas, obviously, it's more about the emotion. And like I said, like it's symbolically like a death and rebirth for their relationship. And the fact that stems from a failed murder attempt is, while not the most noble thing, it's very interesting.
Yeah. I honestly think that I don't know if the ending works for me that well.
I think I probably would have liked it had it been the darker ending. I saw a quote that was like talking about like the difference if this movie had been made in Germany as opposed to America, and it's like it probably would have had, because his German movies have the darker endings. Although we'll get to the one more that we'll talk about, but. It said if this was made in Germany, it would have ended with not only the wife drowning in the ocean, but then he would have then strangled the city girl and then probably gone to jail.
Which I just don't know if the tone shift back into like the slum of it at the end really works for me, even though it goes back up. It just feels like a detour that I don't necessarily think works on every level for me. I think either you go the dark route or you just keep it lighthearted and then they just sail into the moonlight and it's happy. Like
I think it definitely needed that dark drop again. I think the narrative, it was like a tension bubble that had been building throughout like the romp through the city. You needed that other shoe to drop, but I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if it necessarily needed the re-up again. But regardless, I mean, the re-up is so short in the movie.
Well, and it was nice seeing a Murnau film end actually on a happy
Plus,
note. It does feel happy.
I would have just felt so bad for that character. It's like, you didn't deserve any of this. And you died, you drowned out in sea still. But, I don't know. This one was my favorite one.
Awesome.
It had a lot of just... I don't know, it seems like a movie I could watch like 10 times and still discover new things, because there's little minute details. Like there's a scene where like after he comes home from cheating and like the wife goes over and like tucks him in, but like her bed is unkempt, and that's very like obviously probably like metaphorical for how she kind of maybe the one-sidedness of their relationship and how she puts him on a pedestal and cares more about his well-being than her own. And you see like traces of that later on, like when she starts to forgive him, she has like a brief moment where she kind of hesitates and is like, is this the right thing? And then you can see her kind of give in and be like, I'm gonna coddle this man who just tried to strangle me like 20 minutes ago. But I don't know. It's a movie that I really liked. Between all the creative transposing, the inner titles, the little bit of... I mean, it was like 1 second that had the sound bit with the horns and the yelling, but I thought it was super creative. All of that kind of stuff, I think, just led to being just a really great package, really firing on all cylinders for what I think a silent movie could accomplish. And it's regarded as like the Citizen Kane of silent movies.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, even though it didn't, like, and you say that about any Murnau film, like, I could be like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, even though this one didn't quite work as much for me, I still really enjoyed it, and I still get it. And so I'd give this one an 8.
I might give this one a 10.
That's fair. Yeah. I actually thought I was going to for a long time, and when I sat, I'm like, huh. But, you know. And then we just watched City Girl.
Yes.
Which has a similar vibe to Sunrise for a bit, at least.
Yeah, it feels kind of like the inverse of it.
Yeah.
Almost.
Both are kind of about, like, getting into less than ideal situations, I guess, and making the most of it, like finding love. Like, that's
the grass
rekindling
is
love.
On the other side kind of thing.
This one's about a city girl, and a young farm boy comes to town, to the city, to sell off some crops, and they meet and they hit it off, and he's immediately like, let's move in together, come to my farm. And
yeah, he gets a weight-telling fortune that's like, the girl you're thinking of, if you marry her, all
will be well. Yeah.
They're all shit. All right. So yeah, he shows her that, and
Let's get married.
And then they go on their honeymoon, and they return home, and it turns out that he's got a very stern, controlling father who's very just old school, frugal, sexist.
Doesn't like waitresses.
Yeah.
Doesn't like city folk. Is probably the actual more.
Oh yes,
I
city
hate
folk,
waitresses.
women.
Yeah.
And they end up like mouthing off, and ends up like trying to rip her red wedding ring off. So she kinda
slaps her in the face.
Yeah, and then she then gets kind of a reality check as to where she really is when she finds out that her husband is pretty spineless, doesn't want to stand up to his father about it. Because he thinks, well, if I stand up to my father, I gotta beat him up, and I can't beat up my dad. And doesn't even go talk to him about it. His mom's super, like, dismissive of his father's, like, abusive tendencies. Meanwhile, there's, like, a gang of farmhands that are all super fucking creepy towards her. And, like, the father keeps seeing them basically, like, sexually harassing her. And
he's like, man, she's a real harlot here.
Yeah. He thinks that she's just being easy and gonna be disloyal to her son, and is pushing her away, and her son's behavior is also pushing her away. And her struggle, because it was supposed to be this nice, ideal, quaint little farm life marriage. And it turns out to be a lot more complicated than either of them were expecting. But TLDR, basically, she makes plans to run away. The father catches her patching up one of the farmhands' hands, and he's like trying to sabotage the father and get all of them to escape, and they're gonna like steal his cart and the grain and stuff. And so the father's out there, and he's gonna shoot them when they try to escape.
But then he tries to fight. It's Mac, who's the leader of these band of misfits, and our main character, the main guy, he tries to fight Mac, and then he almost gets shot by his own father.
Yep.
So it almost feels like a comedy of errors at points, because it's like, how many things can go wrong in this situation? He does not die, however, but Kate, the girl from the city, had already run away, so he's like, I need to go save her, I need to go after her, I need to apologize, you know? Yeah. And it's like, I think that this is similar in the sense that, like, to Sunrise, but it's just on a scale of when the turn is. Like, it's the very beginning of Sunrise that he's immediately already like, I'm gonna go kill her. And then he doesn't, and the rest of the movie is that. While this is kind of what happens until the point where he turns and becomes good again.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing. It's like, you view this character as like a character, you're gonna be like, oh, he's just the worst. I fucking hate this movie.
Yeah.
But if it's just like about these like archetypes of emotions and about like this patriarchal system, and it's like, yeah, I can't stand up to my dad because he's my father. I can't disrespect him, even if he disrespected my wife. It's like it's interesting scales of where we sit and what we do for the people we love, even if it's at complete odds with the other people we love.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. But
it ends up well. The father apologizes. They go to live.
Everyone in the last 3 minutes has a character turnaround.
Yeah.
Another quick whip of tonal shift, which I was not expecting from this movie. It seemed like it was heading to a darker place than it was. Partway through the movie, I turned over and I was like, it seems like this gang of farmhands are gonna kidnap this girl.
Yeah.
Which almost kind of happens, but doesn't quite. The one
guy's
leader,
pretty much threatens her. It's like, if you don't come with me, I'm just gonna say that this was all your idea.
Yeah. So she's like, all right, I'll go with, and then she ends up sneaking out the window and escaping from all of them temporarily. But yeah, they all have a change of heart. The farm hands decide to, we'll work for the father. He's not that bad, and the father and son make up, and the father kind of apologizes to the daughter. What was that shit?
He goes,
forgive
you
me.
ever forgive me?
Yeah.
It's like, you didn't say sorry.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's probably an apology in the 30s.
Yeah. This one, out of what we watched, was probably my least favorite, but I also will admit I was ordering a pizza for the first half of this movie. So I wasn't paying
I feel like that
to the
first
foundation.
Yeah, I think that foundation's really strong. I think it's really cute. I really enjoyed those first city scenes.
Yeah.
So I think I bought into the love story a little more. Well, it seems like by the time you were done, you looked up, you're like, they're getting married?
Yeah. I had the impression, I'm like, this guy kind of reminds me of Clark Kent. And he's marrying the waitress. Okay. So I'll probably need to rewatch this one.
I think it's probably my least favorite of the Murnau films, but I think I like it quite a bit. I think I probably like it a little less than Sunrise, but they kind of sit in the same place in my head.
This one definitely felt a lot more contained than Sunrise did. Yeah. It wasn't anywhere near as big of a spectacle movie.
It still looks good. I really like the scenes, when he's fighting the guy in the carriage. I think that scene's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's definitely Murnau, it may be his most constrained. Yeah. Which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. And I think it's actually a really interesting piece watching it right next to Sunrise, as an interesting double feature.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Especially because they were his two Hollywood movies.
Yeah.
And I don't know the specifics, but I think I mentioned this in our little intro segment. But yeah, this was apparently the film that got him.
So he did 2 and he left. He's like, I'm out.
Yeah. Bye.
I'm going to go and get a car crash.
Yeah. Well, I'm going
to go make a movie first, though.
He made a great movie called Tabu. But I guess, real quick, you got a rating for City Girl?
Probably an 8 as well.
I'm sitting at a 6, but it's maybe that Sunrise effect.
Maybe it's the half the movie you missed.
Yeah, probably. I won't give it a solid etched in stone rating on Letterboxd, but in my current, if I had to throw a number out as an emergency. But yeah, Tabu.
Tabu, or A Story of the South Seas.
Yes.
Oh yeah, a bunch of these movies have subtitles, Nosferatu is a symphony of horror.
Yeah.
Someone else. Did Faust have a different?
I don't know. I know Sunrise, A Tale of Two...
A Song of Two Humans, I think?
Yeah.
That's a good title.
That is.
Okay, it's just those ones. So Tabu was one that I was really interested just before I was even into silent films, because it's set in a unnamed Polynesian island. I grew up in Hawaii. My partner's Hawaiian and Tahitian. Regardless of how white I am, those cultures are important to me.
Well, yeah.
So I try to make it part of me where I go out of my way to find representation of those cultures or, pay attention to them. And I think Tabu's so interesting because it's like, yeah, here's this extremely white guy in his 40s, in the 1930s, who makes a movie that is completely casted with actual Polynesian people and I think some Chinese people.
Yeah.
Which it makes sense for the movie because it takes place on mostly two separate islands. One island where this girl and this boy, Matahi and Riri, I think their names are, they're in love, but this old warrior sage man named Hitu shows up, and he has a letter saying, hey, our last sacred woman was
she died, and you need to be a sacrifice, but not actually, from my reading, I don't think it's an actual sacrifice. I think she needs to be married into this culture. Yeah. And you are now Tabu, which is a Polynesian concept. It was, I think it's Tapu in, I think, Tongan and Samoan. In Hawaiian, it's Kapu, which is an idea of taboo, or it's a religious belief. It's this is completely out of bounds. It goes further than that. It's not just this is not okay. It's it has a whole cultural touchstone to it. Yeah. But in general, it's just she's off limits. And they're oh, that means you can't be with Matahi anymore. I know, at least in the context of this movie and the story they're telling, when they describe it, it's if you break the taboo, it's not only a curse on the people who broke it, but also everyone in the surrounding area. It's death and misery will
there are just signs in Hawaii that just say kapu for religious places, or just off there's places you can't go to. There's one right next to my school that there's just signs that say kapu right next to it, my high school. And it's interesting because I'm it's not really a thing when I go here either. But
doesn't seem like a great spot for that. I know if the high schoolers I went to high school with were near something of such.
Well, the good news is it was just rocks behind that one, so I never really saw anyone there.
Didn't Jennifer Lawrence
Yeah. A lot of white tourists will go there and think it's a joke or think it's not.
Yeah.
Actually, and it's cool. Fuck you. I understand. Even when I was a kid, though, I'm just this is not my place,
Yeah.
But yeah, Jennifer Lawrence did. It was a sacred rock or something.
Yeah.
There's a movie that's set on the island I grew up on, called Beyond Paradise, that was just filmed by this random white dude that was living there. It's set in, the school they film at is Kona Waina, which is one of the schools that was really close to me. Hinatea's mom is in the movie for 3 seconds. Cool. She's one of the main characters, friends. But there's a scene in that where this white person, the main character, he's friends with these these local dudes, and he's oh, kapu, and he's making fun of it, and he's jumping on the lava rock that's not allowed, and one of the guys just bodies him, and he's it's not cool, don't do it. He just punches him in the face.
Yeah.
And it's it's interesting watching that movie because it has a similar vibe to Tabu, where it's oh, here's this white person that's actually kind of listening to these stories and reflecting that on the screen. I think that this has a lot of really interesting, islander life that feels genuine.
Yeah.
The music is not super accurate, obviously, but everyone has the look down, and
yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not super familiar with the culture. I've obviously never been over there. I only mostly know what I know from you and Hinatea and Joe and all of y'all. But, yeah, it certainly felt very organic. The beginning when they're he's like throwing spears at the fish and he's being super cocky about it. It's like, yeah, I could see this being like...
and it also just feels like Murnau was just like, yeah, just do what you're used to doing. Like
it just feels like normal, just kind of like sportsmanship behavior, and just like... It all does feel very organic and natural. And that's one of the cool things about this movie is like, even like almost 100 years later, like there aren't movies that like this that are being made super often nowadays, or since in the grand scheme of things. And it's like, I don't know, it adds another layer as to why I wish Murnau had survived longer, because it's like, who knows like how many other like communities he would have tried to like represent on the screen, and who knows what kind of cultural impact it could have had. I mean, obviously he died a week before this one premiered, so like maybe if he had even lived just like another year longer, maybe this would have been a bigger success and had more of a... Because before you had shown it at that movie night, I had never seen it, never heard of it.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it and thinking, I was like, this is so fucking cool. That fucking shark.
Yeah, like the shark's goofy, but it also looks great. Like
there are shots where they use like a real shark.
Yeah,
like close up.
And in general, there's a lot of underwater scenes that it mostly looked like they had maybe a big swimming pool and they just put a big glass container next to it or something. But it looks good.
Yeah,
like
a lot of tank stuff.
And
back in the day.
a lot of the shots are on the water, and it looks great.
Yeah, no, it really does.
But yeah, so it's taboo to be together, but they don't care, and they run away to another island, which is like a colonized island. That's when you see a lot of like the Asian people and the non-Polynesian people, because it's an island filled with outsiders, and that's when they start realizing like that they're more commodities to a lot of these people. And that's when they start realizing they need money. So that's why like he tries to go pearl diving where the shark is and stuff like that.
Yeah. Because they're trying to
buy their way away.
Yeah, they get sold out as to their location. So they're weirdly given like time. I guess I can get that. Maybe it's like they were trying to be a little lenient. Like, all right, I get it. Like, you want to carry this real love with you maybe a while. We'll give you like 3 days or whatever. So they're given like 3 days, and so they're like...
Well, it's not... I don't think he knows.
Well, he doesn't know.
Yeah. So she's... Just because, like... I think it's more like, if he sees you leave, he'll come after you. So here's 3 days to try to get away when he's not looking or something like that.
Okay. Maybe. I mean, I figured they probably just didn't care, clearly. They had the easy solution ready at the hip the entire time. But so they keep showing up and threatening to take his life, and she's trying to like arrange it so they can get tickets out of there, but they don't have enough money to get tickets out of there.
So then he goes pearl diving, and he narrowly dodges the shark.
And there's that spot's marked as taboo. Because famous old pearl diver died there. 'Cause there's supposedly one legendary shark that lives there. At the end, it seems like it's actually just a family of sharks that live there or something. So it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense why that spot is extremely fucking dangerous.
Yeah. But he gets it, and he sells it, and he's like, I got the money, and runs home, and she's gone.
Yeah.
Because she had just been taken. And he runs as fast as he can. He starts chasing the ship, and he's like chasing and shouting, and she's in there crying, and she can't see him.
And it's almost like this, like, I don't know. I forgot how this movie exactly ended, so it was kind of sad, because it's like you get this like Herculean like show of like strength, like this almost like mythological feat where he like swims out to the boat, and he catches up with it, but like he grabs a rope and is like, he's finally caught up, but then the guy who's taking her away like cuts the rope and leaves him behind, and he drowns.
Yeah, he keeps trying to swim, and he just slowly starts slowing down, and then he just drowns, and she left to save him, and she doesn't even know he died. And this is the movie that hits me the hardest.
Yeah.
That ending really just...
Yeah. And talking about it, or when you were talking about like the taboo and the cultural origins of it and stuff, it kind of, like, I didn't think about this when I was watching it earlier today, or the first time I saw it, but because I kind of viewed when he went down to, you know, I guess the way I initially read this film is like as almost like kind of like a condemnation of like the concept of taboo in a certain degree. I don't think it's specifically just that. I think it's meant to be interpreted both ways to a certain extent, because it's like, obviously it's like sort of feeding the beast, you know, the more people believe in it, like obviously like the zeitgeist around it's going to like will negative consequences into existence, sort of a thing. But so when I was watching this, it was like, I thought, you know, if not for the concept of the taboo, like they could just happily be married and go off and none of this would be really a thing. But also it's like he does this, you know, I viewed it as like, yeah, like he dives down to the shark's den and takes the pearl, and it's when you're watching it in that moment, it's like this huge like achievement where it's like, yeah, he's, you know, crossed this dangerous threshold and conquered this obstacle. Now he's just got that one last obstacle to go get the girl or whatever.
But is that the thing that doomed him to die?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, did he break the taboo and bring that fate upon himself? Yeah. Maybe if he didn't get the pearl and he had just been with the girl the whole time, she wouldn't have been able to have left him, and maybe that guy would have come to kill him or something, and he would have seen it and been able to fend it off, or they would have escaped some other way. But because he separated it, it's just like, went to go get the money, you know.
Which I think brings up another interesting concept of being like, what really is like taboo, and what dictates like a real reason. Like, because they put up that sign of taboo because it was dangerous. Mm-hmm. It wasn't for like religious reasons. It wasn't for cultural reasons. It was to keep people away, kind of thing.
The way they described it almost seemed like it could have been not for like almost like it almost seemed like they had like deified that shark to a certain degree. So it's like, don't upset the shark that's down there. It's like a sacred thing, and it'll so defending the sacred ground that guards the riches, sort of a thing.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, it certainly is kind of an interesting concept. But yeah, no, it's a great movie. I think this time watching it, I was a little underwhelmed by the human side of the plot. I think maybe just because I had watched all of these back to back. So the love plots, they're all very simple in these movies, aside from maybe, I think probably like Sunrise has probably the most nuanced and complex one of them all. But this one's still got some character. The girl in it is kind of a bad bitch. She, like, your introduction to her, she's kind of off on her own and gets into like a fist fight with one of the other girls. So it's like, she's got some spunk.
Yeah, I think the human one hits hardest for me in this. Probably. Maybe it's just because my history. But I don't know. I love this movie. This is my favorite Murnau movie. Still.
It's a very good one.
This is I think the third time I watched this. And every time I watch it, I'm just like, man. And that ending just fucking kills me.
Yeah, that ending. Fucking. I mean, it's.
And I do really like the song. The one that they play on the. Yeah. It's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. Yeah, this is great. I really like it. I don't think I have anything much else to add to it. It's very good.
I'd give this one a 10. This is my favorite one. So
it's somewhere like an 8.5, 9, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We did it. Screen Weens is back.
It's true.
Probably.
Tell your grandma.
Well, tell your grandma. I hope she's still around.
Yeah.
You said you want to do this probably monthly? So we're going to try
we're going to do the director episodes probably monthly.
No weekly. Thomas is too sleepy for that.
It's true. I don't think if I tried to do a weekly podcast,
we'd be done in 2 months ago.
Yeah. It wouldn't work.
So we were talking before the podcast, and we are gonna do
The
Robert Altman.
I believe so. Yes.
Okay. We were gonna decide who, and then we forgot to decide which ones we were watching. But you said Popeye for sure.
Popeye. Images was the other one I was really interested in.
Images. Nashville is the one I wanted to do.
Okay.
Long Goodbye is the one I wanted to do.
Okay.
And then the two most popular ones that we did not name are The Player and Three Women. Do you want to just watch those?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll do those 6.
You want to throw in MASH in there as well, since that one's kind of culturally relevant?
Sure. And then we're going to watch all of the show?
No. God, no. That's, 11 seasons long?
Yeah, easy. You got a month.
We can just watch the last episode.
Okay.
It's a very happy episode.
Is it? Do they all die?
No, it's regarded as probably one of the most sad moments in sitcom history, maybe.
Oh.
It's the chicken story.
The chicken... Oh, it's Chicken Run.
Yeah.
I like Chicken Run.
You can look up the clip or something on YouTube. It's pretty...
Okay.
But, yeah. But yeah. Okay.
Sweet. Well, yeah. We'll tune in a month or so, and we'll be watching Robert Altman movies.
Yes.
Tell your grandma. Tell everyone. And go watch all those movies so you can be in the now.
Yeah. Go check out.
In the know is what I meant to say.
Yeah. Go be in the Murnau.
Okay, bye.